All right, so right here is the starter relay or solenoid, and right here on this lug right here off the back of it, that's where all the normal your battery cable for electric start hooks up, and that's where everything else connects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jumper from here, and I picked up one of these like cheap little terminals, a couple bucks. And then this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this probably up here on this bracket, reuse that existing bracket. And then this will allow me to simply run a jumper like from here up to here, and that's one side, and then I can have this side here, it will go all the way to the battery in the swing out door, and that'll make it easier for maintenance and everything. So we'll get that set up. All right, so let's figure out some of the existing wiring. So this guy up here, this has got to be the low oil sending unit, and this is going to be a little, I don't know if it's just like a resistor or whatever's in here for that logic circuit. So I know these will interrupt the spark if the oil's low. So we shouldn't really, hopefully, have to mess with that too much. Because you can see, it goes there. Let's have to see where that goes. Over here, this was going to be the fuse. It's a fuse holder. And this is the original main feed coming in. Looks like it goes out. I don't know. We'll look in here. Looking like it's going into our switch over here. Our on-off switch. Let's see here. What else do we got? We got this guy here. It's kind of shrink wrapped over. This guy. So this is going to most likely. So he runs back into here, into that switch. So we'll open that up and see what he is. But my guess is that's going to be the generator output from the dynamo inside there, right, to charge it. And then it's got a ground over here. We got this guy going in. So I'll have to see. Let's open the switch up and see. One of these is going to be generator, and one's going to be for the ignition coil. So I think the next step is we're going to need to open up that guy so we can get a better idea. Okay. Let's take the 2 bolts here off so we can take a look inside and see how that switch is. And got the switch off. So I'm just going to, it looks like these might hold that cover. I don't know if there's just a nut welded on the inside or something else. I'm just going to put them back in for now. They might be handy for the throttle linkage to help mount that up, or the like the choke linkage. It's always handy to have extra little mounting points. Snug them down for now so I don't forget later. Alright, so now then let's take a look here in this switch and see what we got going on. So I probably can squeeze it. Alright, so I finally pulled the switch apart there. Since there's only 4 wires at the switch side, but there's way more wires down here. Once you kind of pull the insulation back here, you can see how everything's wired. So these 2 black wires, they join the solid black up here, and that's for the ignition. And then the let's do the next one. So the brown and the white, they join together to make the white up at the switch. and then that goes back over here to your relay, and then it looks like it goes in here and feeds the generator. Okay. And then you have a yellow green, which is like a ground, and that's what it is. So that turns into this guy right here, and that just grounds. And you can pull it back and see it's yellow green right here. So that's just a straight up ground for that switch. And then you have a white with a black stripe on it, this guy here, and that is to activate the starter solenoid. So originally on here, on the switch, we had the white up here, and then this was the black with white. So if we try and hook up the little probes to it real fast. Right now the ignition is in the off position. We should be able to see our resistance over there. So right now we got nothing. Right there, that'd be on, or 1. Now I'm going up. So that would be the temporary, momentary spot on the existing switch. And that would be to fire the starter, which makes perfect sense. Okay. Now this one here wasn't used at all. Up top here, we have the black wires, and then here we have the ground, the yellow-green in the middle. So as you can see, this right now I'm in the off position, and it's shorting it out, shorting out the black wires, or putting the ignition out. Then I go to the run position, and it makes it go open. And obviously the momentary doesn't do anything. So it looks like when this engine's in normal operating, the way everything's wired inside on here is the ignition needs to be open to ground. So it doesn't get fed, it doesn't get any voltage from over here. So that was kind of not used to working with little small engines, but maybe that's normal. So let's find a ground over here. So if I take a ground now, we find our solid black, which is the one for the ignitions wires. Let's clamp in here. Okay. Now we got resistance. We got about 1.3 ohms, so we always got a coil we're going through. Okay. So now we got on volts. We go to DC volts. We get nothing. So now let's just pull it some. You can see we get voltage.
Just to confirm, you'd like to call Chris Geiger Global.
I didn't say anything about that, you stupid idiot.
Okay, I won't.
So, looks like for some reason, the way this thing is wired, it gets the voltage for the ignition once it actually starts spinning. And that's what it kind of runs off of. And then the power comes out over here, joins into here, so it'll go back and charge your battery. So I originally had wired this thing up. I thought, like most things, it'll need positive 12 volts coming in for the ignition, but I don't feel like taking this all apart and messing with all that, so I'm just going to rewire my dash. And I had it wired up here. I'll show you. This is my notes one. Maybe I'll make a fancier one later. But what I did is I had originally tied the ignition and the electric fuel pump in together to energize. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the coil out, the ignition coil out, use that same switch because this already ran through there. And now I'll add another wire for ground, and then I'll type that ground in the same as this one is wired up, so that when I toss the switch up top from on to off for the ignition, it'll just put it straight to ground and stop the engine. So I'm going to have to run one more wire than I thought from up above. Hopefully that makes sense, or it's clear as mud, but we'll see how it goes. So basically I made some little notes here. So the ignition, when it's open, meaning on the switch, it's in the run position. Then when it's in the off position, the ignition, or these black wires, get grounded. So we'll add that into our wiring so that one more switch that I wasn't planning on, but I have an extra anyway, but we'll add that in. So the fuel pump will have its own power source now. All right, so let's change up this wiring. So the white wire that connects here to the solenoid, that's just like a positive point. All right, so the wire that goes here to the starter solenoid, it's white, goes to the original hot, and all I did with this white wire was it connected to the switch, and then so you could go straight to the starter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to relocate this. I'm just going to kind of save some of this original, because it's pretty nice. Save me a connection. I'm just going to shorten this up. Like that. Pull the white wire out of this little harness. The white wire's out. So now what I'm going to do is I want to put a piece of shrink wrap, so I can find a piece that'll fit. Of course, when there's a little too small, we find a bigger piece. So I just kind of tugged on the shrink wrap. I thought it was going to be a little bit nicer connection in there, but it's just a standard little squeeze one you can see there. So now I'm going to get a bigger piece of shrink wrap, cut this excess off, like so. I'll get some shrink wrap, and we'll cover that up. Okay, I found a piece of shrink wrap. Slide him over there. There's plenty of room on the end. Alright, so a little bit more right there. There we go. A little snake effect going. Alright, so now that that's shrink wrap on there, I got plenty, I don't have to worry about it ever shorting out or anything, right? That's not going anywhere. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take disconnect it from here on the starter solenoid, or not solenoid, but this is the just the battery to it. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it. So I'm leaving this in here so I can keep using this inline fuse just to protect the little magneto. And I have this new block that was put on earlier. I'm going to connect them up here now. And now it's kind of simplify it. So if I got to work on this or whatever, there'll be less stuff in the way. So I'll move him up to there. And now what I can do is I can get my bigger guy here. So my existing washer looks like it'll work just fine. So I had this kind of jumper from another project, so it's way overkill, but it's already paid for. Now let's I'm just going to connect this guy up. So now if I ever need to work on this or something, I can only have one connection here to worry about, and all my other hots are going to be done up here on this guy now. And then the other side of this obviously will be the main from the battery. I just have one big battery cable coming in, and then everything else will tee off of this. Well, on second thought, I am going to have to connect it down here anyway, because I hadn't realized, but I don't feel like having to change all this fitting over. So this guy here just got like a little 1/4 inch, and I need a 5/16 to fit. So I just hook him up here with this guy and call it good. Got the wire hooked back up now. Let's try Right over to here. Snug her down. Alright. So now we'll get charged from here, piggyback over to here. And that should be fine. So now this wire's kind of done. I got some convoluted tubing I may decide to put some of this stuff into. But it has like a little holder here that I can utilize as well. Alright, so it's time to do some more wiring. So I'm going to take the white black for the solenoid, cut this off, make a pin so I can add an intermediate wire from here that'll go up a couple feet long. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now.